Hey guys, my name is Will Harbison. I'm the Minister of Students and Missions here at Gillum Springs Baptist Church. We are so excited that you're going to be a part of what we're going to do over the next few minutes together in your classroom and across the church. It's our Engage Missions weekend, and so we want to focus on what God is doing in the life of missions here at Gillum Springs Baptist Church. So for the next few moments together and with your group, we hope that you guys will engage with us, that you'll engage together, and that if you're not already plugged in missions with Gillum Springs, that you would jump in.
My name is Misty Pucho, and I'm a member of the missions team here at Gillum Springs Baptist Church. We have partnerships with many different churches in many places around the world and in the U.S., and one of those is with Call to Africa. Ken Gallion was raised in this church and was saved here, and he has worked in Africa and in Haiti to provide opportunities for us to go and share God's Word there. With us today is Kelvin Harbison, and we'll start out with Kelvin telling us, how did you get involved with Zimbabwe?
Well, I go back several years with Ken when he first come here, and we were new here, and we've served together, and he just come to me one day. They had an interest in aquaponics, and they were going to be checking it out on this specific trip, and he asked me to pray about going, and I was kind of reluctant at first to go. My first thing was you have a business and you don't have time to go, and so I come very close to not going, but I ended up going, and the Lord in many ways confirmed that, and I was very happy that I did.
Very good. Tell us a little bit about what you did on the trip.
This trip was 3 different parts. It was a visionary trip for our future involvement, Gillum Springs in Africa and Zimbabwe. And it was a pastoral teaching trip, which Brother Jamie went and did. And we ended up doing construction. But we all did evangelism, a lot of that.
Well, what did God teach you through that trip to Zimbabwe?
Well, he just reminded me that it is a fallen world, and that God loves everybody, and even in this, as far away as Africa was, but I realized that there are people just like us, and that they need the gospel, and they were very open to the gospel.
Well, what opportunities has God provided you with since you left Zimbabwe?
Well, since then, I come back and begin studying some of the needs that they had there, some of the opportunities. I have a love and a background and a love for agriculture, and they're presently doing some of the aquaponics down in Botswana, and they're wanting to implement them there in Zimbabwe. They're growing tilapia and vegetables together, which is aquaponics, and they're working with raised wicking beds, which you just water them one time a month, and water is a big issue there. So I have the opportunity to go and spend 3 months in the future, and I'm going to be working with Mitchell Lawrence, who is the missionary there in Zimbabwe, and we're going to be working in Bulawayo there, and also in Chidobe, which our church has some property there. We're going to be doing the agricultural projects there, and we'll also be doing, the team is coming in April, the 10th to the 20th, and we'll be doing medical missions also there and church planning.
Hi, I'm Kylie Brown, and I have been a member at Gillum for about 2 years now. This past May, I went on my first mission trip to Jinja, Uganda. I've always wanted to go on a mission trip, but never felt ready enough. By that I mean I tend to be shy around new people and situations. I'm not an eloquent speaker and definitely not a fountain of biblical knowledge. But this time, I felt the Lord telling me to go, which oddly enough sounded just like my friend Misty Puccio. Of course, after I committed to the trip, I began to think of all the things that may keep me from going. Lack of finances, issues with my passport and paperwork, and even self-doubt about how could I think I had anything to offer the people of Uganda, even though I've been a nurse for 14 years. Let me say that God showed me throughout the entire process that He is the great provider. The money always came through just in the nick of time, and the paperwork came through even faster. And when I got to Uganda, He continued to show me He is more than capable. Let me tell you about a little girl I met. Her name is Precious. I met Precious when one of the other members of the group brought her to me to look at a fairly good sized burn on her arm. All I had with me at the time was a very small first aid kit that had 2 small packs of Neosporin, a little gauze, and some tape. After getting permission from the lady that was keeping her, I cleaned the area with bottled water, covered it with a little Neosporin, and covered it with the gauze. After we left, we decided that the next morning we would go to a pharmacy and get some more supplies in case we saw Precious again and we could continue to treat the burn on her arm. Well, when we got back to the hotel that evening and started sorting through all the stuff we brought with us, we found a large bag of medical supplies, including 2 large tubes of Neosporin, several 4x4 gauze, and even a bright green bandage wrap, perfect for a kid. We were able to continue to treat her burn for 5 days, and even teach her mom how to care for it and leave her the supplies. When we left, her burn was no longer black and on the verge of infection. Instead, her skin was a beautiful healing pink. Now, I don't say any of this to highlight anything that myself or the group did. God worked through us. And through that work, I got to see provision like the widow in the Bible experienced, and witness healing like the disciples got to witness. My family even expanded to include the people of Uganda because I left there with them in my heart. My advice to those wondering about going on a mission trip is this. If you feel God leading you to go somewhere, I say take that step of faith out of the boat and meet Him on the waves. You'll be amazed and blessed beyond your imagination.
Hey guys, so you've heard about some different opportunities. Another opportunity and a partnership that we have here at Gillum Springs is at Metro New York Baptist Association in New York City. Through that organization, we were connected with 2 church plants, one in Brooklyn with Stephen Stallard, and then another in Queens with Boto Joseph. And 2 amazing guys that are doing amazing work, and it's so cool to see that the Lord brought us alongside with them. And so that gives us the opportunities to go to New York City, and through that we've seen a lot of Gillumites enter the big city of New York, and for the first time, and then some are hooked and go every trip. So here with me today are Amber and Tyler Kelly, and Amber and Tyler got to go with us on this last trip, and this past summer, right?
That's right.
And so I just wanted them to share a little bit about what God did for them through that trip, what God taught you guys. Amber, I'll start with you. You know, I know you guys have kids at home, so that's a big decision for you both to go together as a couple. What were some reservations that you might have had?
Well, first of all, we do have 3 children at home, so we were worried about leaving them for a week. Who would take care of them? Would they miss us for a week? Would we be able to cope being somewhere else without them for a week? So that was a major concern. That's why we've always said we'll wait until our kids are older to do a mission trip. But we just really felt like this is what the Lord wanted us to do. So that came very easily. My parents immediately stepped up and said, we'll take them for a week. We've wanted to take them on vacation anyways, so we'll have them for a week and take them with us. Yeah. So that was taken care of. So still nervous, even though we knew they had care for them. We had care for them, but we knew that they were in good hands. So that was a big burden off of us. But another concern, obviously, that we had was also the financial side of that. How are we going to pay for this?
Yeah.
How do we go about finding the funds for a trip like this? So we obviously prayed and asked the Lord to provide for that. And still, me being the person that I am, wanting to control things, I started making a plan. We can do this, and we can do this, and we can do this. But it's like the Lord immediately started just pouring out His blessings in that area of finances. Just people stepping forward and saying, we'll give this much towards your trip.
Yeah.
And some people that we hadn't even asked, just that the Lord had placed that upon their heart to do that. So that was taken care of almost immediately in January, and we were going in July. So it was like we didn't even have to worry about that at all, longer than what obviously I was worrying about that.
Right.
But yeah, so those were the main concerns for us, and the main kind of hindrances, I guess, that have kept us back from going before now.
Yeah, that's so cool to see that God meets us where we are, and even though, yes, we're going to have some real concerns, those concerns aren't too big for Him.
Right.
And like you said, I struggled with the same thing of wanting to have that control and being able to just say, Lord, take this, and for Him to fulfill and provide financially how He wanted to, and to even use people that weren't on your radar. That's awesome. Okay, so God provided so many ways, maybe some reservations that you guys had before going on the trip, and He showed up in powerful ways. And you mentioned financially, you shared with me that one major way that contributed to you guys being able to go was the mission scholarship that's provided through Gillum Springs Baptist Church. And that's something that a lot of our people may or may not be familiar with, but past couple of years we actually budget a scholarship line item to where you can apply for a scholarship if you feel like the Lord is calling you to go on a mission trip through the church, and we have some money that can help out with that. So that's a huge blessing as well. So God provided, God comforted maybe your concerns, and you guys went. Tyler, what were some things that God taught you on the trip?
I think the biggest thing God taught me, and it was the coolest thing the entire trip, is when I met a girl named Savannah. This girl was working with Mosaic Baptist Church, and just casually walking back to that church to get a few items. We were passing out waters in the park. I just had a conversation with this girl, and she had told me where she lived. She lived in Texas. She lived in Austin, and it just hit me that, hey, my brother lives in Austin. And so through us talking, this girl, I told her, I said, my brother is unchurched. You know, he's living a lifestyle that's not pleasing to the Lord, and he's living a homosexuality, a lifestyle of homosexual. And this girl immediately was telling me about her life, and she said, I've lived that same lifestyle. And it just, God, just the Spirit of the Lord came over me, and I had found a prayer partner to encourage me that was going through the same things my brother was going through, and to comfort me in knowing that she would also pray with me and for him. But the coolest part about that entire thing was Savannah told me she lived 3 streets across from my brother.
Wow.
And I mean, my eyes just lit up. I mean, this whole trip wasn't even really about that. But the fact that God showed me we were in such a huge place in New York, He had somebody there for me in my family. And He knew my needs outside of Abraham. He knew them in New York. And He placed Savannah there in my life just to show me that.
I think
it was awesome.
I think we as a church, we have tunnel vision on what we feel like the Lord's capable of doing, and He's just wanting us to say yes to some trip that people keep bugging us about, and then we're gonna maybe do a VBS in the park and this or that, and then that's fine. I'll come home and tell about it. But man, what a reminder that God is such a bigger God than we can we can understand, that we can plan out, and that He's meeting not just your needs for the trip, but He's meeting your needs for the concerns of your family that you have, and for people that you love and care about. He's still meeting those needs even on this random trip in New York City. So that's so cool. Thanks for sharing that. So if you guys could speak with somebody that's maybe on the fence and saying like, what I feel like I might want to go, or I want to go one day, but I'm not sure if it's now. Like, what would you say to someone that's really trying to decide if the Lord's calling them to a trip like this?
I know Tyler and I talked about this. What I said, stop thinking about it and just go. Instead of thinking about the million reasons why you can't go or shouldn't go or need to wait, let the Lord take all that and just be obedient and just say, yes, I'll go. And you will receive more of a blessing just saying yes, even in the moments before you go on your trip. Just the way that the Lord works things out, you just see the faithfulness of the Lord throughout all that. So just go. And like Tyler said, He can show you something for just you, or you can see how that you can be impactful for the kingdom so that other people will know Christ.
Yeah. Even if it's just as simple as mashing play on an iPhone. I went really not knowing where I would play a part, but we went to the park to play with the kids, recreation, and me being in the tech ministry here, they all done their thing with the kids, and I provided the music. Yeah. Just as simple as pressing the play button. So I would tell somebody that's on the fence about going, if you don't know what you're going to do, it's like Paul says in Corinthians, we're all one body, we all have different parts. And my part there was just press and play. It was that easy.
Yeah.
And I had an impact for the kingdom by doing that.
Awesome. Well, guys, thanks so much for spending some time with us and just being open to share with not just me, but our church on how God moved for you guys and grew you in your faith. And look forward to going with you guys again. So now that you've heard of what all God is doing, and we're gonna get back to it here in just a second, we wanted to pause in our time together and just give you guys a second to talk as a group, as a class. Maybe you've heard something that's spurred a thought, or maybe you have a concern or something that you've heard about specifically, or a question. But we want to give you guys a second, and we're going to post a couple of questions up on the screen. And we want you to just hit the pause button when they pop up, so you'll have a reference to go by, and spend a little bit of time talking about these questions, answering them together as a group, and we'll see you in just a little while. Hey guys, I'm here with Caitlin Embry, and she is a junior in college at UNA, and Caitlin has been a part of our church for a long time, and it's been neat to see her come through the youth ministry, but more than that, to see the Lord open her eyes to missions. And we've heard a little bit about Africa and all that God is doing through Call to Africa and our partnership with them. And Caitlin is one of those that has been impacted by that. So Caitlin, you went this past May to Uganda. Tell us a little bit about that, how the Lord got you there, first off.
I did, yeah. So last May I went to Uganda, like you said, and it really just came about. I always felt kind of like called to Africa specifically. It just had a special place in my heart. Read Katie Davis's book, and I was like, wow, like it just kind of opened my eyes to like it is possible to, you know, be my age and, you know, make those things happen. And so, you know, just throughout, I graduated from high school and went to college, and just over that course of the year, the Lord really started to work in my life and just show me a bunch of things about myself. And just as I grew in my relationship with Him and learned, He just really developed that, you know, call for me. And so I came home for, like, I think it was around Christmas break, and we're doing the pillows and ornaments to send to the widows in Jinja, Uganda. And so Miss Puccio, Miss Misty, was like, hey, there's a trip coming up. If you're interested, just let me know. And I was like, yep, I'm going to do it. And so I went and talked to her about it, and, you know, just committed to going, and it was a very good decision.
Yeah, and so you got to go with your dad as well.
I sure did.
What was that like?
It was interesting. It was really, it was a really good experience. I'm so glad he got to be there. We're so close, but it's, you know, it's a whole different ballgame, you know, same small hotel room, got to bond a lot. It was great. He really enjoyed it.
It's always so cool to see church families within our church, like mom, son, father, daughter, say yes to where God's calling them to go, because that's such a huge feat for so many different reasons, financially and everything. So it's so cool to see, and I feel like the Lord works in families and grows you guys through that.
Yeah.
So very cool. Well, what are some other things that you learned while you were at Uganda, or that God taught you?
Just being there, I mean, you kind of have like this notion of like kind of trying to imagine what it's going to be like when you get there, and trying to kind of prepare yourself, prepare your heart for what you're going to see and encounter. But then once you get there, it's like this totally, it's just like, whoa, like it was very overwhelming at first. Just the poverty, because of course like it's a very poor part of the world, but just seeing it, like I'd seen pictures and read about it, but being there I was just like, oh my goodness, like there's so much need here. And so that was very overwhelming. But I feel like the Lord definitely showed me, like over the course of the trip, like you're like, it's gonna be okay, and you're not called to like fix everything. You can't fix everything that you see there, but you're just called to love who's in front of you and just serve where you can. And so it's just through like certain stories that, and just like experiences that we had being there, just seeing like, you know, just those little victories of like helping individuals. That's the main thing that I came away with was, and also like you can't necessarily like feed all those people, like there's not enough money, you know, to do that, but it doesn't cost me anything to go and tell them about Jesus and to encourage them and just love on them. So that's one of the main things I learned.
Awesome. That's so cool. So you went on the trip, you came back, went back to school, and now you've got some big plans coming up. Tell us a little bit about that.
I do, yeah. So my dad initially went on the trip. He's like, I gotta go so we can make sure Caitlin gets back on the plane, because they're really worried I wouldn't come home. So as soon as I got home from that trip, I was like, all right, so, you know, when am I going back? I gotta figure something out. And I wanted to go back the semester, like that summer's when I went. I wanted to go back that next semester. I was already ready to, you know, be there. And so I was, you know, looking for opportunities and just praying about it and trying to figure something out. And the Lord, you know, showed me, hey, like it's not time. And so just through the course of praying and searching, and I don't know, I ended up staying here for another semester at UNA. But I found an organization called Heal Ministries, and it's a nonprofit organization, and it's in the exact same city that we went on that mission trip. And they work with women and children, and they empower women through they have 6 programs, and they teach them skills, and they have a business class and a preschool and childcare, and like all these things that are very near and dear to my heart. And so I just felt very called to that, and so I just, you know, contacted the lady in charge and applied, and it was great, and it all worked out. And so that's where I'm going this summer for 2 months. June 1st to July 31st.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited.
I think it's really cool. There's so many opportunities for students your age to, if you feel that calling on your heart, whether it's through Call to Africa or different organizations, there's so many opportunities. So that's great.
Really awesome.
How can we as a church be praying for you as you prepare for that?
I would just say, of course, like just preparing myself for what I'm gonna, you know, have to be doing, and being away from my family for that long is gonna be pretty tough. And I'm starting to like realize, okay, Caitlin, like you're gonna be gone for 2 months. It's a pretty big deal. And so I'm starting to get just a little nervous, a little apprehensive. So just like to have peace about it and to be calm, because I 100% know that it's where I'm supposed to be. So that's great. But just, you know, I don't know, just learning to, I don't really know.
We'll pray that the Lord prepares you for that, for sure.
Prepares me for that.
So I was going to ask you as we close, there are a lot of people listening to this that might be in your shoes or where you were before you went to Africa originally. What would you say to somebody that might be praying through that, considering that, or feeling that maybe the Lord wants them to go on a trip to Africa, or maybe one of the other things we've talked about? How would you encourage them through what you've been through?
I would just say, if you feel like the Lord's calling you to do something, I mean, we should do it. I mean, in light of who God is and what He did for us, like, of course, like, you should definitely just say yes to that call. And I don't think anyone who has said yes and committed to doing something that they feel like the Lord's calling them to they don't come back saying, you know, man, I really wish I hadn't have done that. But it usually turns out to be pretty incredible. And I've learned too lately, a lot of the reasons I feel like we say no, or like, I don't think I can do that, I'm so incapable in all these areas, just don't look at yourself, don't look at where you're inadequate, just look at who God is, and, because He, you don't have to be great. A lot of the time He calls people that are incapable because it's not about us and it's not about what we're good at. So that's where I would encourage people, don't worry about all the little things, just say yes and pray about it, and it'll all work out. Yeah. And also, but like, you don't have to go to Africa to be a missionary. I think that's what the Lord really needed to show me this semester, and me staying at UNA for another semester before I went for a long period of time, because it just really showed me like there is so much need here also. And so just be content where you are and just love God, and
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing with us. We'll be praying for you and your trip coming up, and looking forward to hearing about it.
Thanks. Yay.
My name is Sam Shell. I've been going here to Gillum for about 5 years now. About 2 years into it, I met Frank Whitaker from Frank Whitaker's Ministries, and he goes down to Guatemala. He takes medical teams down to Guatemala to help the folks out down there. I told him I'd be glad to go, but I had no medical experience. He told me not to worry about it, to come on and go with him. Through that, the last 3 years, I've been going to Guatemala at least once every 6 months. And with that, we take doctors down. They see the people, doctor on the kids. We take beans and rice, and we help wherever need be, along with some ministry opportunities. There is anybody can help. Anybody can jump in. You just have to be willing to work and willing to give yourself in any way, and the Lord will provide the way. We can use anybody from doctors, nurses, to people like me, old retired Marines. The harvest is great. We need all the workers we can get. And the Bible says if we do this to the least of these, and down in Guatemala, the way that they live, and the kids, and things of that nature, and they live very poor. And so we go down to try to help them any way that we can, and just try to be the hands and feet of Christ. I would encourage you, even if you can't go, support one of these local ministries so that the work can be carried forth, and that we can bless others just like He's blessed us.
Hey guys, I'm here with Keith Mead, and we wanted to talk a little bit about Haiti. Haiti is an area that Gillum has had a partnership with for several years now, but we've just kind of began a new partnership in northern Haiti, in Cap Haïtia, with Haiti Good News Mission. And this is an organization that's doing really cool community revitalization projects, and that we felt like as a church we wanted to come alongside. And so we have started partnering with a community called the Kashiman community, and through that we're able to send teams and partner financially. And we're excited to see what God has in store there in that community. We work directly through the local church there. The lead pastor's name is Pastor Jack, and sweet community that we're excited to be a part of. And Keith, I just wanted to kind of bring you in on this conversation because I feel like you were able to go with us this last trip, and it really was a men's work trip. So tell us a little bit about how God opened the door for you to go.
Well, we had been back to Gillum for about 3 years or so, and I kept hearing stories about the Haiti trip, mission trip. It will be a medical mission trip, and so I decided that it felt like I needed to go, so we prayed about it and just felt led to go ahead and pull the trigger and go on it, and I was really glad I did. We had a good medical mission trip in March of this past year, and there's a bunch of construction needs that we saw while we was there, so we started working toward a construction trip that we had planned. Pastor Jack and some of the elders of the church was wanting to expand the church, and so we sat down with them on our medical trip and just got a kind of a layout and idea of what they was looking for. And we put a team together, and of course you was on the team too, and went back and kind of a God thing. You think you're going for one thing, you think you're geared up for one thing, and God says, you're doing this.
Yeah.
Because we carried no tools for the job that we decided that we was there to do. So, but we got through it, had a good trip, got a footing dug and poured, got about 2/3 of the block work done. The Haiti people were great, wanted to work. The people of the village, of course, as you know, was willing. They support their church and was really willing to work. I think you can correct me on this, but have we got the wall finished up yet?
Yeah, I think the wall just recently is supposed to be finished up and ready for the next phase. Share with us kind of what is the next phase construction wise, and maybe some needs that we'll be having coming up in the near future.
Construction wise, on the next phase that we'll be going on, we'll be putting the roof on. We'll have to do some demolition on the old church to get it ready for the new roof to go on and everything to tie in properly. So it's probably going to be a 2-step process. We're probably going to have to send 2 teams in 2 different weeks to actually make it happen.
Yeah.
It's going to be a pretty big project to get the roof on this building. So we're going to need some people with construction skills, especially carpentry skills. Yeah. That's not afraid of heights, that don't mind getting up in the air a little ways and working, and don't mind working long hours, because it's going to be a working trip when we go.
Yeah. So that's probably going to be this fall sometime. Hopefully we're working toward that.
I'm thinking everybody's kind of leaning towards this fall. Hopefully we can get everything put in place. We're going back here in March for a medical trip, and we're also going to do a kind of a research trip as well, and get all of our good numbers down as far as the size of the building and the material that we need, full material list and all that, so that we know exactly what we're going to need when we hit the ground, so that we're not waiting on material to get there once we get there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's so cool to hear all the opportunities that there are for our people to engage in what's going on in Haiti. What would you say, just from your experience in going and then you're planning to go in the future, what would you say God has taught you through all of this?
Patience.
Patience.
It's on God's time, not our time, and we do a lot of waiting. Things don't go our way, and we have to kind of back up, punt, and go a different way. The language barrier is I'm not going to say a problem, but it's definitely a
challenge,
an issue.
Yeah.
But we worked through it. Everybody. By the end of our last trip, everybody was, working good together. It was really didn't even have to talk. It just everybody knew what to do by the end of the week.
Right. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being with us. We're certainly looking forward to what God has for Gillum and partnering with Haiti, and we appreciate people like you just putting your yes on the table and going.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and I really enjoyed my 2 trips that I've been so far, and looking forward to many more. Hopefully we can partner with this community and really spread God's word and build His kingdom.
Absolutely. Thanks, Keith.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So just in a few moments, we've seen how big our God is and how He's doing so many different things in so many different areas. And we're grateful as a church to have people like you guys that are saying yes to what God is doing and getting involved. So I wanted to tell you before we dismiss, I wanted to let you know about something really cool that's going on tonight at our church. It's going to be in the fellowship hall at 5 p.m. tonight. We're going to have a missions expo, and this is going to be an opportunity for you to come as a family, as a life group, as a Sunday school class, and for you to see all that God is doing. We're going to have information tables from different ministries, different mission organizations. Some of these things that you've heard of today, maybe you can learn more about, but also organizations and mission opportunities that were not included in this video. So we want you and your family to be a part of that. We are going to have soups. We're going to have food. It's the Baptist way, and we know you'll come. and eat. So we're excited about what God has in store for tonight. We hope that you'll be a part. We want to finish this time together just as a church, corporately praying together. So I want to encourage you, your leader of your group, of your classroom, to just pause for a second before we dismiss and to spend time praying for all that God is doing. When He says go and make disciples, we as a church at Gillum Springs want to be faithful in doing that. So pray that we would be faithful, and pray that God would call you to do whatever it is that He's calling you to do. Thanks for joining us today.